welcome once again to the Ridenour Clarinet Products Shop. Thanks for dropping in. As promised, we are going to have some questions, Q&A, it'll be Q&T actually. Get some of our listeners and watchers to write in their questions, and we appreciate your questions, and we'll certainly consider putting them on. This is actually the first set, so thanks for all the people who sent stuff in. The first one comes from Sleazy Rider in Denver. He opines, I'm a 70-year-old beginner. That's optimistic. I'm a 70-year-old beginner. I was debating on whether to begin clarinet and stumbled onto your YouTube videos. I'll be beginning banjo lessons on Monday. Thanks for all your help. Thank you, Sleazy. See, Jazz Hog in Tenafly writes, I routinely play clarinet in a Kenton-style big band and need more volume and projection. What would you recommend? Trombone is the first thing that comes to mind, actually. Writer Namick writes, what can we do about the throat B-flat stuffy sound other than using different resonance fingerings? Okay, writer, thanks for your question. You could always, as a single solution, immediately clears up all the throat B-flat problems. You could always switch to the hurdy-gurdy. And further good news, the field of Hungarian folk music instruments in America is wide open, so you probably have the market cornered very soon. But if you plan on sticking with the clarinet, there are a few things you can do. First of all, make sure that you have really good resonance fingerings. I remember my teacher back as a graduate student gave me the resonance fingering that is the third finger in the left hand and third finger close in the right hand and the low F key. And I used that for a while. It does improve the throat B flat, but I find that the low F key really makes the throat B flat inferior. So I finally dropped that. And the fingering I use most of the time for the throat B flat is to finger the throat B flat and use 2-3 and 2-3. That is the second and third finger in the left hand, second and third finger in the right hand closed. To my mind, that's the superior throat B flat of all the B flats that there are. Another one is to finger low C sharp, like the second and third finger are closed, and the low C sharp key, the left hand pinky key. That's a very good one. That works very well, and especially for certain passages, like second movement of the Brahms E-flat Sonata. That's terrific fingering for throat B-flat because you have to make an interval off that. One of the other things that people fail to do is they fail to get enough adequate clearance of the thumb. When they play throat B-flat, they really don't let the thumb up completely so that it completely clears the thumb ring. If it doesn't clear the thumb ring, then it's going to drop the pitch somewhat and fuzz up the note. And also the thumb ring not being completely cleared, if it's partially depressed, it's going to depress the pad under the A key, and that can mess stuff up. So it's a really good thing to learn to practice the thumb opening up and closing and completely clearing the thumb ring. There are some things you can do to help further clarify the note, besides using those resonance fingerings and besides making sure that the thumb is clear. First of all, make sure the register tube is clean, because a lot of times it collects debris from swabbing. So pull that register key off periodically and go in there with some pipe cleaner. Make sure that all the debris is out of the register tube. That can drop the pitch and also make the note increasingly stuffy. There's some finishing things you can do on the register tube itself that people who know what they're doing ought to do rather than you. But there are a few things. If you have a cork pad on there, for instance, a lot of people think I'll get a cork pad and that'll make the sound clearer, but it doesn't always, because if the cork pad has sharp edges around it, if the edges haven't been taken off, then those sharp edges can be noise makers and cause a lot of fuzziness and resistance. Then there are other things you can do in terms of playing. First of all, make sure that you support the sound really well with the air, that you don't drop your air back or you don't increase the embouchure pressure. You don't start biting. A lot of people When they play that stuffy throat B flat, they drop their air, and they also increase embouchure pressure. Well, all that does is increase resistance, and that makes the throat even worse. Finally, another equipment thing that you can do is to make sure that you're playing extremely well balanced reeds all the time. If there's any imperfection in a note, imbalance in a reed will make it worse. It'll amplify it. So if a note's a little bit fuzzy naturally, or a little bit off color naturally, when you're playing an unbalanced reed, and notice I don't say just a hard reed, but an unbalanced reed, when you hit that fuzzy or off color note or funny resistance note, the wacko nature of the unbalanced reed is going to make the difference even greater. It's going to make it even fuzzier, even duller, even weirder. So playing really well balanced reeds and making sure your playing mechanics are really excellent, good embouchure, good air. If anything on those notes, your embouchure function and your air function has to be even more perfect. And then finally, you can always be conscientious to play the side key B flat whenever you have a sustained B flat, and you can, logistically get to that note. Use that sustained B flat. It's also improved by using those resonance fingering. I hope those things are helpful to you in solving the throat B flat problem. There's really little else that's left, but if you go through that checklist and are conscientious with it, playing techniques, good reed balance, good embouchure, you're going to be in good shape. Reed Boy from Austin writes, how old were you when you decided you wanted to be a clarinetist? Well, let's see, Reed Boy. I began thinking about being a clarinetist at the age of 11, and it's still under consideration. Finally, Sharon from Canton writes, I'm 11 years old and play the clarinet. I watched all your videos and liked them, but don't you think you're too old to be playing with dolls?